Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, 4 nerds by nerds, hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy is dead.
And today we're going to delve into Unearthed Arcana. We're reviewing the Greyhawk Initiative.
Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
Hey guys, we're looking at Unearthed Arcana Greyhawk Initiative. The Greyhawk Initiative. It's just a Greyhawk Initiative. But, so this is something Mike Mearls has been playing around with. He talked about it in the Dungeons & Life video. They did an Unearthed Arcana. It kind of made its rounds over on Reddit a little bit. We did a previous video about it. I have no idea what we said in that video anymore. That seems like forever ago.
Indeed. But it's here, and you guys kind of demand that if an Unearthed Arcana comes up, we got to talk about it.
Well, yeah, you like to know our opinions. And we want to weigh in on this one anyway. So okay, it's kind of interesting, but it definitely adds a new level of complexity to 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons that just isn't there. And one of the interesting things that Mike Mearls talks about in the Dungeon Life video is, there's a lot of things going from 2nd edition to 3rd edition, they changed. And he's like, did we just change it to change it? Or is it possible that they got it right the first time and we didn't need to change it?
Well, I greatly remember how 2nd edition works, and the lower initiatives were always better, and it was, in my opinion, it was one of those things where when sometimes high is good and sometimes low is good, it can be very convoluted for new players to pick up. So when they made the switch over into 3rd edition, higher was always better, and that's just how it went. And I think that was easier to pick up. And there's some good things that I think can be done with this revised initiative thing. But as a whole package, if it's take it all or leave it, I'm going to leave it.
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm not really feeling it. I'm not into it. So there's a couple points that were kind of like pain points for me that I don't really care for. Now, I will say going with the fact that you're going low with initiative, it does have the ease of who's got a 1. All right, you're up.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's definitely that makes it easier from the DM side. You literally don't have to track initiative at that point. But other than that, I don't know if it's worth it to convolute high-low. But then the weird thing is, it's like depending on how many actions you're taking, bonus action, move action, and standard action, that determines how many dice you're going to roll to figure out where you are. Do you have things that make you better at initiative, like advantage, or something that makes you worse at disadvantage, or a special ability? Like if you have a special ability, it can lower one of your dies. If you have advantage, it's exactly that. You roll advantage, take the lower of the 2.
And absorbing the advantage disadvantage mechanic into 5th edition, I enjoy, and typically that has only ever been in a situation regarding the D20. Like the closest thing is like the great weapon fighting style.
Right, and it's not advantage at that point. It's just reroll and power. Yeah. There's examples of where it's used for other dice, but it's never called advantage or disadvantage.
Right, but here they've actually absorbed that concept into other dice. Now, the lowering of the die, in my opinion, for something like, well, I'm going to take the alert feat, I think greatly reduces its abilities, especially it's like, oh, well, I'm not going to move, I'm going to make a ranged attack. That lowers my d4 to a die 3. Only possible lowering of 1 over the entire spectrum. Like, to me, that's like...
Yeah, like it definitely rewards others. And even like he does like a couple sample fights, and there's literally one because the player, before he fully knew what was going on, chose poorly.
Mm-hmm.
He actually lost his round of action.
Yes. So the in the example, like the troll ran away. Well, he chose not to move. He was just going to swing. Well, I interpreted the earlier rule of okay, well, can you make modifications? I misread something that I was like, oh well, if you want to have the option of moving, you have to roll that die. Once you determine you're not moving, that's it. You're done. If you can't make a melee swing, you don't do anything that round.
Which kind of sucks for the player, and like having to think that far ahead. I mean, not that you're thinking that far ahead, but still, I get it. Combat can be chaotic. Things change on the battlefield. But the idea that you're caught so flat-footed you wouldn't just run after him seems a little odd.
So, like, the way I would do those type of situations is actually how I interpreted my first read through, and that's okay. Well, the battlefield changed, so at your initiative, you would then have the ability to okay. Well, I need to do more, so I'm going to add on another die and then go later in the round. So,
or make the tax something like, oh, you go last. Like so everyone, and I think I know what you're talking about. Where we're talking about something similar, where it was, but I know what you're thinking about was spell effects and how they go off because they get their own initiative.
right.
But and I would probably want to do it the same way. Be like, oh well, you didn't react because you were caught flat-footed, so we're going to push you to the end. And if there's multiple people that did, then you would just refer to your original initiative,
Right.
and whoever had the best would go.
Well, yeah, okay, well, you go to the end. Well, now the person comes after you who's also flat-footed. He goes behind you. So that would still stay in order. The new end becomes the new end. And that's the way it works. Because I think robbing someone of their entire turn because they chose poorly or interpreted events differently than what wound up coming out, I think is the worst possible options for what could happen in here. Don't get me wrong, I'm not hating everything that's here. I'm not trying to say that. I like the fluid of rolling every round, and I like if we had a lower overall count, it's easier to track. And if I don't have to actually write anything down, then that's great. There is definitely a way of doing it. But is the combat fluidity where we don't know what the order is next round, is that worth the time it's going to take to, okay, I don't just start the new round and go to the top of the order. We all have to stop. We have to figure out what we're doing. We have to roll the appropriate dice. We have to literally set what our action is to a degree.
Right. It's not really specific. It's like I want to move, attack, and use a bonus action, and that's all you really have to say. You don't have to say specifically what they are, and it's not like you're beholden to use that bonus action. It's just determine where you're going to go initiative.
Right.
Same thing with casting a spell and staying where I am, or I'm going to move up and shoot my bow. Like all those things would be different factors, but you're going to have to go around the table, boom, 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 and also the idea of, he also went with the idea of keeping the dice in front of you. Mike Mearls did, so that you actually know what actions you have taken. Like, oh, D4, that means I'm ranged. This D means this die is going to mean I'm moving.
It's a D6.
And this one means I'm taking a bonus action or swapping out gear or something like that.
And that's the other thing of like, I'm going to drop my weapon. That's like, that really? It's a free action in 5th edition, and here it's actually costing you something.
Right, or attack, or drawing a weapon in addition to attacking is part of the same action. So,
right.
So there's things like there would be things like that, and also, but then he compensates for things like 2 weapon fighting, so I draw 2 weapons. Well, it's the same as drawing 1.
Right.
Like it doesn't compound it.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the problem? What is the thing that Mike Mearls is trying to solve with this? He wanted to add more of the chaos of combat into his game by he's trying to address the problem of a static initiative, and he's not wrong. Like, if you guys set the initiative and everyone knows when everyone goes, then you kind of create this unrealistic flow of events that there's no ebb and flow.
And we've seen this in combats that go on for a little bit, where the players know the initiative order just as well as the DM, and if you have monsters going on different numbers, there's times they're like, well, we think this guy has less hit points, but we're going to target that one because he's going to go next. And, we've all seen it. I don't know how about you guys, but I know it's happened at our table. So it's like, well, if I can steal that guy's attack,
Or that guy already went and already had his attack, so we go after the guy that's got one comment. Yeah,
right.
Like it can kind of get like metagamey like that, and I can see that. But what I would say to that is, why not just roll the D20 every round, right? Instead of having a bunch of different dice, and you would still get that fluidity of combat without the extra die rolling. Well, dice rolling, I should say.
Yes. So, like, if I were to go this method, part of my brain is like, well, I wanna then expound upon it and go closer to a more realistic of like, okay, well, where does all of this stuff happen? Okay, you're going to move, you're going to swing twice, and then you're going to take a bonus action to do this other thing because you're an Eldritch, you're an Eldritch Knight, so you can cast a cantrip as a bonus action. Well, shouldn't you be at here, and space you all out as to where all those things, like that's my next iteration. Like
take it to a more even insane factor.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, you're going to get your one attack then he's going to go, it's going to come back to you, then she's going to go, then it's going to come back to you. Like,
where does it end?
Where, like, that's where my brain is taking this. I'm like, well, why can't we have attacks on multiple things to really show the way the ebb and flow of combat really happens? Because it's never just, well, I get in all my attacks, then you get in all of your attacks. Like, that's the way a video game goes. If you want more realistic, it's going to be a more back and forth. A combat round in 5th edition and in D&D in general has always lasted like 6 seconds. So in that 6 seconds, all of this stuff has to happen. So the flow at the table is, well, you get all of your stuff done out of the way, and that's what happens this round. But I imagine in the middle of that, all of these other things are going on. So if you want to take it to the nth degree, that's what it is.
We have not even touched on the elephant in the room. Dexterity. I actually have a mixed feeling about this one. Mike Mearls just chucks dexterity out the window and says it's no longer a factor in initiative. Now, here's what I like. Dexterity is already kind of the super stat, right? It can be your attack, it can be your initiative, it can be your saving throw, and they're all very important things. And your armor class, right? All very important things. I do like the idea of decreasing the superness of dexterity. That part I kind of feel good about.
All right.
And the reason why I do, like, some people might argue, well, that's your sheer ability to react to things, so it should make you faster. But I would also argue someone who's quicker, has a quicker mind or is more analytical could also do the same. Someone who has a lot of skill, has a lot of experience, and has practiced certain movements often enough, they also have that as well.
And I mean, literally in 4th edition, Dex and Intelligence were a linked stat.
So, yeah. Every stat had 2 linked stats: Strength and Con, which was a little weird. Strength and Con, Dex, Intelligence,
and Wisdom and Charisma.
So yeah, well, I don't. Those 2 I'm not sure, but I get a bunch of them. I know were linked. 4th edition was like a lifetime ago at this point. So yeah, so it does get weird. Like, so we're chucking dexterity, which is kind of okay, but part of me, part of me just wants to go, well, if we're going to do this, instead of doing all these different dice for different actions and doing the math of them together and coming up with our number that way, I mean, it's not super difficult math. Let's face it, it's just a little addition at worst. But I was just like, all right, well, each round just roll a die 20 and just go with the normal initiative system.
That's kind of what I would settle on, as to, okay, well, you want the non-static initiative. Don't go into all the extraneous options. Just say, we're going to treat this as a normal thing, and we're going to roll every round. If you want to remove Dex as a component, great, go for it. That doesn't faze me in the slightest.
Here's what I would do, like, as an addendum, if you're going to do that to make things faster, is when the character's taking their action this round, part of that action is rolling initiative for next round, and it gets noted at the same time. So it would make it a lot easier for the DM as you move around the table. So this way you don't have to go back around to get initiative again.
Mm-hmm.
I think, hey, you're rolling your attack rolls. Well, roll an extra die 20 with them, and let me know which die 20 that is. That's actually your initiative, and I can just jot that down. So once we get to the end of the round, we'll have them all. You do the same thing with the monsters. Boom, initiative order done, and you just save a ton of time with keeping the fluidity of combat changing up.
Right. The only issue would be the DM when he's rolling the monster attacks. He would also have to remember to roll the initiative, yeah. And you could then, like, okay, well, this group of monsters is going to continue to go together, and so you've got separate, whatever you're doing, separate groups. They stay separate.
And I can see it being really easy. Like if you make the TPs like initiative order TPs, and like you have a player, like the first player goes and they put their initiative, and all you have to do is put it down, and then the next one goes, and they're either going to be to the right or left depending on what order they went in, and you just kind of fill them in as you go. Boom, you can kind of see it, make it easy.
So like I said, there's good stuff in here. There's stuff that I would not use at my table. I am in agreement that the higher numbers of third and fourth and fifth always being higher is better. I'm fond of that. I can make teaching other people that much easier so that they didn't have to actually know. But to go back into a system where lower is better, I think it's just difficult.
It just feels right to have it all the same, right? And I totally get where he's coming with it, and if it and I can see where it could be fun, and it does add like this extra like mini game to it that could be enjoyable. But the question is, are you guys using it at your table? Are you enjoying it, or you just like it the way it is? We have a place for that. In the comments below, let us know. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can hang out with us over on Facebook.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.